Welcome to the first SECAC meeting of the year. I'm so excited to see all of your faces.
Before we get to the to introducing the SECAC co-chairs, I'll mention why we are emphasizing the new name or the new version of our name is because in the past we referred to ourselves as SEAC. Most of these committees across, or all of these committees across the country, are called Special Education Citizens Advisory Committees. And there was some reason in the past, unbeknownst to me, why the C was dropped from MCPS's version. But we have been working to revise our bylaws, and one of the decisions that your executive leadership has made is to come in line with the appropriate name for other committees like this. And so we've put the citizen back in the SECAC. And so we will be henceforth referring to ourselves in that way. So that's new news, but we also have some other news to update you on as we move forward with the bylaws that I'll get into at a later date. So at this time, I will have the co-chairs introduce themselves. Ms. Victoria Aiello was unable to be here with us this evening. She is our longest running SECAC co-chair, but she did notify me that she was going to be unable to make it. I saw Connie, but if Miss Amy Bloom is on, if Amy, you could introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Bloom. It's nice to see many familiar faces again, although right now I can't actually see anyone on my screen, but that's okay. And to those of you who are new, welcome. We hope that this is a place where you feel comfortable and safe and supported. Phil and Jen, congratulations on well-deserved promotions. We're really excited that we still get to work with you. And I guess a little about myself first. We have two boys. Our older son, Justin, received special ed services, and he just started 6th grade at Westland. So any middle school parents out there, I guess, can relate to how exciting and stressful that can be. And then we have our youngest is in 3rd grade at Bethesda Elementary, and he has his first male teacher, which is kind of cool. So that's it. My email is on the website. If anyone ever needs anything, please feel free to reach out. Thanks for coming. Connie, are you there?
I think Connie's here. To clarify, I did not get a promotion other than being promoted to getting mail from AARP now, but I did not get a promotion.
Oh, I apologize.
Jen got a promotion, and
Jen got a promotion. Okay.
And we will introduce our new associate later.
Okay.
On.
Well, I apologize for misspeaking.
That's no problem. I would love that, but I'm happy where I am.
All right.
So Connie.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. I'm Connie. I have been attending SECAC meetings for a long time, but I'm so excited that everybody's here in our first SECAC meeting of the year. How exciting is that? Again, if you are new, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. We would love to learn about where you're from, about your family. If you do have any questions, or if you do need any assistance that we can help you with, I will make sure to put our information on the chat, and I will link our MCPS SECAC website for your convenience, and you can save the date for any upcoming meetings. I have a son with a disability. My son has autism. He's 10 years old, and he's on the Asperger's program. And I also have a daughter that is 7 years old, 2nd grade. So again, I'm so excited that everybody's here, and keep in touch. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, co-chairs. I'm going to go through the agenda real quick. We have something to add to the agenda, which is a good thing. But we're going to meet our advisory committee members, which we've just done. We're going to meet the associate superintendent later on when she comes in. We're going to meet the staff members from the special education department that represent different areas and different programs. So we'll introduce them to you. We're going to receive updates from the opening of schools. I'm going to take that on, where I'm going to go through some different data points, what our priorities are, a lot of information to really set the stage for the school year and the work that we're taking on this year. One addition, we're going to hear from some representatives. I believe Brooke Levy is going to speak to us about some work and some upcoming events that the Down Syndrome Network is taking on. They have some exciting events that they annual events that they take on, and that me and some members of my department love to participate in. So you'll hear about that. And then we're going to jump into some breakout rooms, and we are going to give you all an opportunity to have some conversations in your choice of a variety of different breakout rooms. We will have a breakout room with the co-chairs. So if you want to speak directly to the co-chairs for some reason, you will have access to them. If you want to speak directly to me, I will be in a breakout room, and you can come speak with me. Or if you'd like to speak with the supervisors, there's going to be a room for the supervisors with some structured questions and an opportunity to get some input from you all. So that's going to be our agenda this evening. We could go to the next slide. So because this is the first meeting of the year, we do want, and we may have some new members, we do want to make sure we review the format for SECAC. We have a link to our ground rules there. Every time I look at them, I realize, and Derek, I don't know if you could click on that link. I realize that only 2 of them are really relevant outside of in-person meeting. But we certainly, when folks are in the meeting and they're making comments, or they're sharing an experience, we want folks to try to be concise, so that we can not only get through our agenda, hear from our speakers, but we also want to give others an opportunity to speak. The one that's is not really that relevant anymore is limiting the side conversations. Unless you're having a side conversation with a family member and your speaker is on, it's not really relevant. But one that certainly is relevant is that we want folks to act in a respectful manner at all times. And we've had a wonderful group, and a very positive group. That doesn't mean that we don't take on very difficult, challenging topics and difficult, challenging experiences. We know that special education is a very challenging field that we work in, and we know that it's a field that involves a lot of emotion at times, and we never begrudge any parent for advocating for their child. We just want to make sure that we're doing it in a productive way within this room. The structure of the meeting involves us having some time to take public comments. That's another upgrade. We went from public testimony to public comment. So thank you, SECAC co-chairs, for that recommendation. So we do have a period of public comment. For those of you who haven't participated in public comment, it is an opportunity for us to hear from you in terms of how things are going out there in your experience. Those experiences might be positive. We certainly have had some public comments where folks wanted to really make sure that somebody or some school or some program or group with or teacher was doing a great job, and they wanted to share that experience with the entire group. And we also have a public comment for folks who want to share a challenge that they're experiencing that maybe others are experiencing as well. In those times when folks share public comment, there may be some occasions where I can respond directly to that public comment. If it's a quick and easy response, I can do that right away in the context of the meeting. In most cases, I need to do a little bit more research and find out a little bit more information, which may mean me contacting you. So we do ask that if you're going to do public comment, that you share a summary of that public comment with the SECAC co-chairs in advance. So you have their email address in the chat, but it's also on our webpage. All you need to do is go into the MCPS webpage and put in SECAC or put in special education, and we'll take you to that page, and you can find their information right there. You don't need to give a lot of notice. We just like to have a summary of what you're going to share and your contact information so that I can circle back, get more information from you, and hopefully follow up with you. So that's the public comment. We also like folks to share information that is going to be a benefit to everybody, to the entire community. If you have information that you want to share that's really specific to your student, we ask that you try to respect the privacy of the staff members that are involved. And we ask that if you want to address a very specific issue that's really a challenge that's specifically associated with your child, you can let us know. We will connect you with the appropriate staff member, supervisor, or whoever may be the right person to address that concern. We also provide updates from our department. So that may look like Amy or myself or Diana Weil sharing information regarding the latest and greatest that's out there, something that's going on. Certainly the last few years, we've had a lot of of updates were needed regarding, you know, the school closures, the pandemic, the compensatory recovery services, things that really were relevant to the time and space that we were in at that moment. We also know that you don't want to just sit and listen to us just shovel you information all evening. We want to make sure we have other voices, and we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to speak to each other. So we've gotten better at this as it's gone along. And so tonight, unfortunately, is not going to be the best example. I'm going to be doing way too much talking. But as we move forward with our other presentations in the future, we will be hearing from other presenters. We like to share information about what's going on in MCPS, and then we like to open it up as well to community members to share information as well. Then we break into our networking sessions, which involves the breakout rooms. Promoting SECAC to increase participation. So some of the things that we do to try to get more involvement, I will say our number tonight is a little low, so maybe we didn't do the greatest job getting the word out on this one. But we are always trying to increase our participation numbers. So we have a flyer that goes out to schools. We have information on social media. We have information on our web page, and we have information that goes out through the MCPS newsletter, quick notes, and as I said, on the web page. So we are promoting it in those variety of different ways. If you can think of other ways to share that information with your community, please let us know. We also know that some folks share this information on different listservs, which is perfectly fine with us. We ask that you just make sure that groups that you're sharing this with understand that this is not an opportunity for them to be promoting any sort of business or practice, that they want to use this as a space to promote some self-interest. This is really a community discussion. Next slide. I can't see if Ms. Wiles is in yet, so I'm hoping somebody's going to alert me when she enters the room, so I'll just keep going. I'll quickly review our mission, and we won't be doing this every meeting. We will just be doing this of these routines because this is our first meeting. So our mission is really around the provision of and implementation and monitoring of a delivery of services that is within a seamless continuum for students with disabilities from birth. And sometimes folks get surprised when we use the word birth, but we do partner with agencies that support families and students from birth through age 21 to prepare them for college, career, and community readiness. So that is our mission. Everything that we do in our office is aligned with our larger system priorities. And so what you're seeing on the screen now are the MCPS system priorities that have been identified by our Board of Education and by our superintendent. And so those are centered around academic excellence. So this is really about improving academic achievement for all students, increasing graduation rates, being college and career ready are all examples of that. We also, as a whole system, are looking at improving the well-being and family engagement for students and families. That looks like implementing effective behavior management systems, implementing culturally responsive family engagement opportunities. And lastly, one of our largest system priorities is professional and operational excellence. So that would look like increasing our district-wide cultural relevance and professional learning for our staff. So those are our system priorities, but our Office of Special Education priorities on the next slide are aligned to those system priorities. So you can see that, like our system, we are focused on academic achievement. Of course, we're looking at trying to make sure that our students with disabilities are making the most academic progress as possible, and that we're getting them as close to their grade level or non-disabled peers as possible when it comes to their academic achievement. You may hear terms like closing the gap, and that's certainly our work in that area. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Increasing access to the general education setting. So always trying to look for how we can improve or increase access to that general ed setting so students are with their non-disabled peers as much as possible throughout the course of the school day. And decreasing disproportionality. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And there are two areas that are listed here: disproportionality for disciplinary removals is an area that we have a focus on this year, as well as identification of students within a specific disability area. Disciplinary removals is another term for suspensions, maybe a common term that you're more familiar with, but that is an area of priority for us this year. Next slide. A little bit about us as a population of students that are within Montgomery County who currently have disability eligibility. So this bar graph shows you the different breakdowns of all the different disability categories. Our child count is currently around 22,000 students. So when you talk about 22,000 students with disabilities, that is larger than many school systems or most school systems in the country, just that group of students in and of itself. So it is a lot of work that we put in to manage the services for that large group of students. You can see that we have what we call high incidence or low incidence disabilities that are on this graph. So our most common disability category is specific learning disability at about 30%. Other health impairment, which is a broad umbrella that covers everything from disabilities that are a result of a medical condition, as well as other disabilities that may focus on attention deficit needs, comes in second there. And then the third highest is actually an area that in most school systems would not be considered one of the higher incidence disabilities, but it is certainly considered a high incidence disability in Montgomery County. And that, I think, in part is due to the wonderful continuum of services that we provide to our students on the autism spectrum. We have a wide variety of services for our students who are served in every different setting with that disability description. And that comes in at over 16, almost 17%. And then we have students with speech and language disabilities. We also have a large group of students that carry the disability description of developmental delay, which is only able to be on the student's IEP up through their 8th birthday. And so by the time the student turns 8, that student needs to be reevaluated. And one of these other disability descriptions would need to be identified, or the student would be considered to be not eligible for a disability description and would be operating as a general education student. So that category is fairly large for Montgomery County, and our speech and language category is fairly low for some other in comparison to some other counties. There are other systems that I see identify students at an earlier age using the speech language category, and then students may be reevaluated with a different or additional disability as we learn more about them as they get older. In Montgomery County, we tend to identify more students with that developmental delay and then reevaluate them later. So it's just a pattern that we see in our county. That's good. Yep, thank you. I'm going to update you a little bit on where we are with academic achievement, and we're at a place now where we can look in the rearview mirror and really have some solid data to focus on. So you have in front of you the grade 2 English language arts and math data. So English language arts in blue and math in red. And we have on the left-hand side all students, and we have on the right-hand side special populations of students. So this is grade 2. The top row is from 2018-19. So that's prior to the pandemic. This is where students were functioning pre-pandemic. I went back to this school year where we had the one of the last full school years that was not interrupted. And so you see how students were performing in that school year, and you could see where special education students were. And certainly we could see that we had a lot of work to do. And this again is for our grade 2 students. So special education students for both ELA and for math are in the mid to low 30% range of proficiency, or meeting what we call our evidence of learning markers. For those of you who don't know, evidence of learning is the framework that we use in Montgomery County to determine whether students are on a path to success in that area. It involves multiple data points. It involves data points that are what we consider classroom data. So those would be grades. It involves data that we consider district-wide data, and it involves external data. So district-wide data might be those curriculum assessments that students take along the way. And then it involves external data, which might look like the state assessments or also standardized assessments like our MAP-R and MAP-M assessments. So we have a formula that we use to determine student success in those assessments. And that's the data that feeds this graph here. If you go down to the row below, and again, grade 2, you can see the drop off for our students in all areas that took place. If you're confused about the reason why we have some additional bars in the 2021 school year, it's because there was actually the addition of the gender area X was added so that students could identify rather than male or female, they could identify in that other area. And so that was a change that took place over that course of time. And so that does make the bar graph look a little different. But you can also see just where the impact was in this area. And this again, grade 2. So if you go over to special education, you can see that actually we had some improvements in some of our areas, which during the pandemic, not that we want to go back there and revisit it, but one of the things that special education did do well was deliver interventions virtually. And so we really pretty quickly were able to turn around the interventions that we got out there online. And we think that really helped to keep some students afloat during that period of time. But you also see the impact from 34% to 22% in that ELA area. So that's grade 2. Let's take a look at grade 8. Okay. So for grade 8, you can see where all students were performing again on the upper left. Special populations are on the right. Special education's in the middle there on the upper right. So a little bit better news, 43% ELA, 37% for math. That's pre-pandemic, again, 18-19 school year. And if you go down below, you can see again the impact. And for these older students, you can see again, and I attribute this to some of the delivery of the interventions that we were able to put in place in a systematic way during the pandemic. And I don't think it's something that we've really given ourselves enough credit for. We certainly don't want to take a lot of credit for 45% of our students passing the mark when it comes to anything. So I recognize that, but we do want to recognize that we were doing some things well when we were trying to make sure that students had access to some of those reading interventions during the pandemic. And I think that bar graph reflects that. But we do see a reduction there in math from that 2018 to the 2021 school year. So that's a little bit of a look in the rearview mirror now that we have the benefit of a full school year worth of data last year behind us to really kind of see where that impact is, and addressing that learning loss and continuing to work through compensatory recovery services is still our work, and we have a little bit of information on that later on. So if we could go to the next slide. So that's academic achievement. So you saw the data. So now what? So one of the things that we're really focused on is honing our multi-tiered systems of supports for students when it comes to academic success. So we're really trying to make sure that we get that information well organized now to schools. And what the multi-tier systems are is really the approach that we take to provide early interventions for students before they are identified with disabilities, students that we may see that are lagging behind for whatever variety of reasons. And we make sure that we have early interventions for them. Unfortunately, some folks think that the delivery of special education services is the answer to all of our needs, but we know that early intervention is actually the best path to success. And so we've been doing a lot of work around that. Jen is taking as one of the leads from our office with that MTSS work to make sure that there's a continuum of tiers that involve general education first, and then when a student does transition and potentially need special education, tier 3 interventions, that we are right there to pick it up, and we don't have a gap in that continuum from general education to special education. Students can continue to make progress, and so that's the work that we're doing there. We have a renewed collaboration with the curriculum office. Our new structure or reorganization aligns special education and our Office of Special Education underneath our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Peggy Pugh, who we will invite in to share information with you. At some point, you'll get a chance to meet her. But we are now aligned with the curriculum office in a way that helps us really collaborate better with them. Intervention support to teachers, that's professional development. Literacy and math coaching continues to take place. Later on, Jen's going to share with you some information about our professionals that are out there supporting teachers with that work, our content specialists. Secondary co-teaching, professional development, and professional learning and coaching opportunities for students that are duly identified as emergent multilingual learners with disabilities. That is an area that we really need to do a lot of work and that we are willing to take on this year. Next slide. Actually, before we go to the next slide, I want to see if our associate superintendent, I think I saw her come into the room. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break, which is great because I need a drink here. And so I'll drink some water while I introduce Diana Wiles. Are you in the room, Diana?
You might be seeing me, Diana Gallagher, but I'm
I think I was Diana Gallagher.
Hi.
Thank you for saying that.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
I saw Diana pop up there and told me.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for saying that, Diana. All right, I will keep going then. All right, next slide. Okay, least restrictive environment, LRE. So this is a little bit of a history lesson on where we've been with serving our students in the least restrictive environment, what's called LREA. LREA is the designation for students who are in the general education setting for 80% or more of the day. You can see in the first column that the state standard or target is roughly 70%. And then you can see that we have hovered around 67%. And so we have not met that target in quite a while, but we have been close and holding steady at that 67%. So it's something that we continuously work on. It is something I will admit is a continual challenge as we see some of our programs that fall just below LREA and what's referred to as LREB continue to grow. And this is not an excuse, but I think it's an observation. Some of our programs, I'll give an example. One of our services called our Autism Resource Services, which involves students receiving their services primarily in the general education classroom, but a student may be in a resource class where they're working on social skills and problem solving. And they also may be in a class where they're working on receiving a reading intervention that might be outside of the general education setting. And when you get into that realm where you start to see a student removed for maybe 2 classes, that bumps them out of that LREA category. And we really believe strongly in the model that we've been using for that program, and we've seen a lot of growth in that program. And so I think that type of growth in those LREB areas is hurting us when it comes to this numbers, but we certainly believe that we're doing the right thing for those students in the way that we serve them. So we're going to continue though to push the envelope and work towards getting students in the general education as much as possible.
Ms. Wiles is here.
All right. Well, I will do this. I will take on this slide and then I will turn it over. So LRE, I mentioned LREB. But LREB is not one of the areas where we are measured by the state or monitored by the state. LREC though is, and the goal here, LREA, your goal is you want to try to have the highest number possible. LREC, you want to try to get this number down. And so the state target is around 12% of our students that are in LREC. Those are students that are in the general education setting for 40% or less than 40% of the day, 40% or less than for that period of time during the day. And so we are sitting at around 14.5%. And so that's an area that we've seen some growth in. And I can speak in a few minutes about some of the things that we're doing to take on the growth in that area and to try to serve students more in the general education setting. So before I go forward, I'm going to give our Associate Superintendent, Diana Wiles, who we are welcoming this year. She is coming to us from her first year in MCPS last year. And I'm going to let you, Diana, say a few words about yourself, but I have to say these things, so I apologize. So Diana was with us last year. She was with us for her first year as our supervisor for our resolution and compliance unit. So some of you may know her from that work. But we are extremely lucky to have a leader who is extremely well-rounded and well-versed in the field of special education. She's one of the few folks in the field in her position who taught as a special educator. She is an attorney who's focused in the area of special education, so she knows that side of the work. And as I continue to be in meetings with her and learn more about her expertise, I see other areas. For example, we were in a meeting today where we were focusing on looking at some contracts, and she has a lot of experience with that area as well. So she comes to us with a wealth of different experiences and knowledge. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Diana to say a little bit about herself and to welcome, and we can welcome her to this work. Diana.
Good evening. Phil stole all my thunder. I have nothing else to talk about. I am very happy to be with you all this evening, and it's an honor to step into this position after Dr. Mason decided that it was finally time to turn her her retirement card in for good. She has been a mentor to me, and I'm just really excited. I know we have a lot of work to do, but I want you all to know I'm here to support you all at SECAC. I'm here to support our staff at central office. I've been touring schools to see what our administrators and teachers need. So I'm really trying to get a good handle on where we are in the Office of Special Education, where we need to go, and how I can support. It's just a complete pleasure to do this work. It's the culmination of a lot of work experiences in different school systems. So I hope that I'm able to bring some fresh eyes and offer some new and innovative ways for us to think about the work as we go through a pretty challenging time, still coming out of COVID, and recognizing that we have to approach the work differently, approach maintaining our staff and getting new staff that are committed to the work to join us in Montgomery County Public Schools. So thank you so much for giving me a few minutes out of your agenda just to say hello. If anyone needs to reach me, I have an open door policy, and I welcome any feedback that you all have so that we can work together.
Thank you, Diana. Sorry to steal your thunder, but she is an expert in many areas. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Amy Kropp, to say a few words about LRE when it comes to our pre-K students.
Thank you. I will tag team along and continue the data train here. I'm going to go back 2 slides, Derek. So these are the 2 correlate, I think the one per, no, this one, good. The correlate data of least restrictive environment, where our pre-K students ages 3 to 5 are served, where they receive their instruction and services. And we talk about the emphasis, the importance of least restrictive environment, children learning from their peers in classrooms with their peers. We have different challenges, unique challenges in pre-K, because the big infrastructure issue is that MCPS, we do not, like many places, don't have universal pre-K. So MCPS does have general education pre-K for particular groups of students. And then we have special education pre-K. So very quickly, you can see that we are pretty far off the target of where we want to be in terms of serving students, pre-K students ages 3 to 5 in a general education, what we in early childhood world call a regular early childhood setting, which is essentially a general education setting, childcare, general education pre-K class. So making strides, doing lots of work with our general education MCPS pre-K counterparts to work on more inclusion as general education pre-K expands and phases into more full day classes as a result of some of the new laws in Maryland called the Blueprint. As there's an expansion and a phase in of a full day services for general education pre-K students, we are along for the ride there. We are tag teaming along for the ride there. And we will see more and more students enrolled in those general education pre-K classes with their general education pre-K peers. But we are, as you can see, still far off the target. The next one is indicator 6B. The next slide has the flip data, the flip side of the data in a sense, services in a separate school or class. So here, it's just another way to demonstrate that we have many more children than we would like and then we should have served in self-contained special education pre-K classes. And for those of you who understand the early childhood world in MCPS, who've been there or who are there, PEP, preschool education program, PEP are a lot of our self-contained classes. We also have self-contained CAP classes for students with significant autism. So those are some of the classes that are really, really successful for our kids, but they are self-contained classes that we're looking at increasingly joining pre-K classes and making inclusive settings. Phil,
So
I'll
let's
pass it.
thank you, Amy. Let's talk a little about the now what in terms of LRE. Before I get into the bullets, I'll say that, Amy referenced some of the unique challenges that we face in Montgomery County without universal pre-Ks to partner with. We are, seeking to increase our opportunities to partner with our general education pre-K programs. One of the challenges that leads to is that many of our students who are coming out of those self-contained pre-K programs are making a leap from a smaller self-contained setting to a larger general education setting when they transition to kindergarten. So it's an ongoing conversation, and we had quite a bit of conversation today about it actually, and we're going to continue to have that discussion about how we can work with our pre-K partners, whether they be the special education or general education teachers, to help improve that transition so that students are transitioning to the most inclusive and least restrictive environment that they possibly can. So we will continue that work and try to continue to grow in that area. One of the things that we've been doing, and for those of you who've been with us know that we were calling this our TIES work because we were partnering with the TIES organization, which is an organization that promotes inclusion for students with significant cognitive disabilities. And we conducted that work in partnership with them for 3 years. The TIES organization is no longer the awardee of the federal grant that promotes that work. So we won't be working with them moving forward, but we will continue the work of supporting inclusion for students with significant cognitive disabilities. And that looks a lot like coaching of schools who need support with modifications for materials, who need support with all of the technical assistance aspects of supporting a student in the general education setting who has a cognitive disability. And so we are committed to that work. You'll meet Anne-Marie Tagliaferri later on when we introduce our supervisors. She has a team of folks underneath her that are helping to support that work as well. We'll continue to do professional learning for teachers who are seeing students in those inclusive environments, and including our teachers who have those elective classes where many of our students are attending those general education settings. We're doing a lot of coaching with our programs that do see students in the self-contained setting, so that it's not a one-size-fit-all type of model where we're looking at the strengths and needs of each student individually. And we're having students out in the general education setting, included in the general education setting on an individual basis, that will meet their individual needs. And we're looking, as I mentioned, at that process of transitioning students from pre-K to kindergarten, and looking at professional development opportunities that will restructure that discussion, that least restrictive environment discussion that happens at the IEP table, so that we're really asking, why can't these students be included, and if there are barriers to inclusion, addressing those in the IEP goals and objectives. Next slide. I mentioned that one of our priorities is working on our areas of significant disproportionality. So there are two areas that Montgomery County is currently identified as being significantly disproportionate. And so significant disproportionality is when there is any of all of the different racial subgroups in these three different areas: identification for a disability in any of the disability areas, for placement in restrictive settings, and for disciplinary removals, or what's commonly called suspensions. And so those are the three areas where we're monitored, from the federal government to the state government. And these are two areas where we have been found to be significantly disproportionate. There's a formula that the state uses to determine whether we meet that criteria. One area is very small group of students. American Indian, Alaska Natives are in the same demographic category. And for the identification of that group of students for emotional disabilities is one area where we are significantly disproportionate. It's a very small group of students, but compared to their non-disabled peers, we're using their formula for the state. We are over-identifying that group of students. So that's going to lead us to some practices that I'll share in a few minutes. The biggest one for us, which we are looking at more recent data, because the data during the pandemic was not really all that useful when we were virtual, is that suspension data. And so the most challenging area for us that we're taking on is the disciplinary removals or suspensions of Black African-American students with disabilities. And so there are multiple categories where we are disproportionate, and that is for students who are Black African-American students with disabilities being suspended for fewer than 10 days. So that would be those students who might receive a 1-day or a 2-day or a 3-day suspension. So we're disproportionately suspending Black African-American students with disabilities for less than 10 days. We're also disproportionately suspending Black African-American students for more than 10 days. So that might be a student who gets a 10-day suspension with an expulsion recommendation, or a student who might have multiple disciplinary removals that add up to 10 days. And then the third category looks at all the different possibilities for disciplinary removals. It looks at in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, and those fewer and greater than 10 days. So it is all categories. And so that area, we are also disproportionate. So this is work that we are taking on with our schools. We've done some data analysis to look at some patterns and look at what schools we need to do some more closer work with. And we've also looked at it by disability as well. So we know that there's some specific work that needs to be done with students who have certain types of disabilities. So if you go to the next slide, I can share a little bit about some of our actions that we're taking on. In terms of the identification process, we're making sure that all of our IEP teams and our school psychologists are following the policies and procedures for identification of students with emotional disabilities. We have a lot of new psychologists that are on board with us as we have continued to grow. And so we're also making sure that those new psychologists are trained in all of the different procedures when it comes to that identification process. We have some extra layers in Montgomery County that are designed to help us keep from being disproportionate, peer review processes when it comes to psych reports and things like that. We are taking on some professional development with administrators around and IEP teams around that identification process as well, to make sure that they understand what the identification process looks like. When it comes to disciplinary removals, we're going to be engaging with those schools that where we see higher rates of suspensions. We're going to be reviewing that data with their leadership, and we're going to be looking at implementing some effective practices and modifying their disciplinary practices so that they're using other means and not always resorting to that disciplinary removal. We have a richer continuum of services and supports for students that are engaged in behavior that needs to be addressed through our behavior management policy and practices. And so we want to make sure that those are being implemented. We would want to do parent outreach if we see students that are being suspended multiple times, and there's a pattern there, that we make sure that we have the parents on board, and that we're working with the parents as well to try to make sure that students are in school as much as possible, and we're engaging in those other means, which can include parent involvement when we come to, for example, use of our restorative justice practices. We also have added social workers both in our programs that support students with social emotional needs, so that we now have a social worker at each of our discrete programs for students who need intensive services in that area. But we also, as a school system, have added additional social workers at each of our high schools. And so we think the support that students are going to be getting through the additional resources, along with what's been designed as well-being teams at each of the schools, will help support students along that continuum as well. So that's not all of the work, but those are some of the highlights of some of the pieces of work that we're putting in place to address that area of disproportionality. You all will have an opportunity to talk to me later in the breakout if you have questions about that data or about that information. I'll be happy to answer that, and you will have an opportunity to meet and speak directly with the supervisors in the breakouts as well. Opening around the updates of school. And Diana, I welcome you to jump in with anything here as well that you can think of. I tried to think of this in terms of some things that, on my visits that I've done out to schools that seem to be, positives, and things that we want to just be transparent about that continue to be challenges. So some of the positives, when I've talked to principals, they say, this is a new school year. Last year was really challenging with students coming back for the first time. We're seeing students who are, who are coming back into a more of a routine. And so I've heard that from principals. We also, as you'll see later on, have a huge positive in our office, which is the addition of 3 new supervisors and 6 instructional specialists, 1 for each of those supervisors. And so you'll meet those supervisors in a bit, but those additional resources that have our office back to the levels that it was a few years ago, in our ability to support schools back at a level that it was several years ago, I think is a huge positive. And so that's something that we're very excited about, and we hope will be a game changer for our schools. Some of the challenges that we continue to face are the vacancies in the field of special education, and that's something that we took head on going into last year, and we continue to face that challenge this year. And it's something that we're working on constantly with our partners in the Office of Human Resources and Development. And so it's something that we will continue to be challenged by until we can figure out ways to get more young people in this field. But we are continuing to work with our labor partners on different ways to help maintain the workforce that we have currently, and to help try to bring new folks into this field. I had the pleasure of jumping in on a job fair and met a lot of wonderful young people who were interested in working in education, and we need to continue to look for different opportunities to expand those. But that area is certainly an area where we will continue to be challenged for some time. And that's been an extremely stressful piece for us as leaders. Getting our programs and services fully staffed is an ongoing challenge. The other area that that I'll mention is that learning loss area that I showed the data on earlier, and we're continuing to work on implementing those compensatory recovery services to mitigate the learning loss that was impacting our students during the period of virtual learning. So that's an ongoing challenge that we take on. We're continuing to take on. We're also are seeing I don't have the data on this yet, but anecdotal data from working with my supervisors, a pretty large number of move-in students. So we have students who are coming in from a variety of different areas, international students and students that are coming in from across the country who we are working through that move-in process with. And so that's something that I know our supervisors are spending a lot of time helping get families in the system and getting them acclimated to the school where they're going to be receiving their services. So those are some challenges that I've seen. I don't know, Diane, have you seen any patterns or anything you want to mention in your time out at schools?
I just wanted to add that Dr. McKnight, one of her 3 priorities this year is to regain and rebuild trust of our community and our stakeholders. And so we have been very focused on central office staff, executive level staff, going out and seeing schools, talking to staff members, and having an open door policy. Over the first week of school, we debriefed every day with Dr. McKnight and provided feedback on what we saw. I don't know if we all got to, if we were able to see all of our 200, over 200 schools, but we continue to do that work so that the school teams know that central office is here to support. Oftentimes we get a better sense of what the needs are in the buildings if we can see it versus relying on email, because we rely so much on email, this, especially I think after COVID. But we are really focused on getting into the schools and continuing that throughout the school year.
Thank you, Diana. I'm going to do a little intermission here, and normally at the opening of our meeting, we allow for updates from our rec department friends. And so, Jen, have you seen our rec department friends? Are they in here today? Because what I'll do is allow them. I know sometimes they're unable to stay for the entire meeting. If they are here and do some updates, then we can.
Angela is here. Angela Lusky.
I see Angela has raised her hand.
Hello, and I can't get my video working. We got a new laptop this week, so I'm sorry that I can't let everyone see, especially since my cat's been coming by a lot. I just wanted to pass along, we are able to do our Kids Day Out program that had started last year at various schools that were doing the after school programs, but we have one specifically going to be at Bauer Drive Community Center right next to Wood Middle School. And it's going to be, there's 7 different dates on the school holidays. So starting this coming Monday, the 26th, we will have one. And it's specifically for kids with disabilities covering ages 6 to 21. So we'll break them up into a youth group and a teen group. Depending on, unless we don't get enough to separate 2 groups, we'll combine them, but we'll still do separate activities. But it's going to be 8:30 to 4. And the information, I don't know if it went out through the school system, but it can be found on the recreation website. And I can also put the information in the chat.
Yeah, if you could put that that website in the chat, Angela, that'd be great.
Okay, and then we'll have some other family events coming up this fall, so people can check that out too. So I'm very excited about that. But glad to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. All right, and thanks for giving me a little break. So we're going to move forward then, and I'm going to introduce to you now our area supervisors. I'm going to give them a chance as we go through to do a little wave or say hello off camera. And so you can just see their faces, but we're happy now that we're up and running with 6 area supervisors, and you see here their names and the name of their instructional specialist that is their partner. So in team 1A, and when they come off, you'll see they'll share what clusters or schools that they are supporting. And then we also will show you an easy way to access. I'm going to ask Derek. Derek, this is your heads up. I'm going to ask you to show how they can access this information on the website. Okay, this is your warning. All right, so we have Cynthia Webb in team 1A with Sue Ryan. So there's Cynthia. Cynthia, are you here with us this evening?
I am here. I am delighted to be back in the Department of Special Ed. So this is my second time around as a special education supervisor. This time I'll be supporting the BCC, Blair, Einstein, Northwood clusters.
Thank you, Cynthia. And next we have Claudette Smith.
Good evening, everyone. I am in my 5th year with the department, and I am supporting the Wheaton, RM, Wooten, and Churchill clusters. Sarah Kayo.
Okay.
She is my instructional specialist.
Cynthia is working with Sue Ryan, who's new to us as well, coming out of one of our schools, Veers Mill, who's a wonderful, experienced teacher supporting our schools. So the next slide is Dr. Melissa Brunson. I know some of our folks had some appointments that they were unable to make. So Dr. Brunson, were you able to be here with us this evening?
I'm actually here. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Brunson, and this is my 5th year with the department. I did change clusters from the last 4 years. So the new clusters that I've been working with is the Whitman, Seneca Valley, Rockville, and Northeast Consortium for both Paint Branch and Blake High School clusters, as well as a special school, Stephen Knowles. And with me, I have Mr. Brian Hunter. He's been with me for the last 4 years, and he continues to work with me this year. We're very excited about what is to come this year.
All right. Next, we have someone who is new to administration. We have Kelly Jerome. So Kelly, are you here?
I am here. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Duran. I'm a new special education supervisor for the Kennedy, Magruder, Quince Orchard, Walter Johnson clusters, and then I have the Blair E. Ewing alternative programs. I am not new to special education. I've been in special education for many years. And my instructional specialist is Jerry Edwards, and she also has a wealth of experience in special education.
Next, we have Kia Middleton Murphy. Miss Middleton Murphy, or Miss Murphy, would you like to come off and say hello?
Good evening, everybody. I apologize I can't be seen because I'm driving, but my co-pilot has unmuted me. I am a remix to special education. Last year, I was acting. Prior to that, I have been a special education supervisor a few years back. So I'm excited about returning to new clusters, Damascus, and returning cluster to Watkins Mills, Sherwood, and I'm forgetting one.
Clarksburg.
That's it. Thank you. I work with Ashley Doyle, who is a new instructional specialist, but was previously an itinerant resource teacher.
All right, thank you, Kia. And I think we missed one of my supervisors there. So before we go to Sandy, I think we might have skipped a slide, but Laura Johnson, is Laura Johnson here? Okay, somehow missed Laura. So we have another area supervisor, Laura Johnson, who was previously an instructional specialist in our area before going back to schools. She's supporting, she was an AP at Watkins Mill, and we were lucky enough to be able to pull her back into our office. And she is an area supervisor as well. And Laura Johnson, we will be sure to introduce her to you later on. So program supervisors, many of you recognize Dr. Ives, who supervises our services for students with social and emotional needs, and her instructional specialist, Lisa Cordy. Sandy, are you here?
Yes, hi, good evening. It's nice to see everybody. I welcome you to the 22-23 school year. Very excited about having all of our kids back in person and looking forward to a very productive year. And Lisa Cordy is my instructional specialist, and there's her picture.
And I mentioned Anne Marie, who is supervising our programs and services for students working towards alternate learning outcomes. Anne Marie.
Hi, good evening, Anne Marie Tagliaferri. I'm very excited for this year to begin. We've spent a lot of time out in schools already, getting to know our incoming kindergartners and checking in on all of our students who are returning. My instructional specialist is Dawn Hanna. Dawn Hanna comes to us with a wealth of experience from teaching students at Longview to supporting students in LFI and in the LAD programs. So we are happy to have her with us. And I have a more expansive team that includes Megan Sullivan, Kathy Greenberg, and Taylor Hartman. So thank you. It's nice to see you tonight.
And that group of folks that she mentioned support a variety of different needs for students with significant cognitive disabilities, including helping to support students who have behavioral needs, students being included in the general education setting, curriculum needs. And so she has a wonderful team that she's working with. I'm going to turn it over to Jen Strobel so I can stop talking and she can share a little bit about the team. As I mentioned, Jen is now a coordinator and she is working with this wonderful group of specialists here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the warm messages that I received in the chat. And you don't have to worry, I'm still going to be part of the SECAC and I'm really excited for all of our meetings. And so Derek, if you go to the next slide, we didn't do all of the fancy pictures. I feel like you all know what my face looks like, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what the support to school looks like, because we're really excited about it. Our idea is to get to the schools before the problems start. So it's really about being proactive and providing the professional development before it goes wrong. So being able to give teachers the knowledge that they need before they realize that they didn't know it. And so we're out there doing a lot of coaching to the teachers, particularly the new teachers. Phil talked about the vacancies, and there are a lot of people who are hopping into their jobs new. They are not alone. The team has been meeting with them. It's a PLC where they're learning all about good instruction and how to write a well-lined IEP. We've been going out to the learning centers to look for all of the models and find out what the best practices look like so we can take people right on over to the learning centers that our models, and people can see all of those great practices in action and know exactly what to do when they get back to the classroom. I think you're going to notice a difference with the instruction that you see in your child's classroom. The academic interventions and training continues. I feel like every year I blubber about all of the academic intervention training that we're doing for our teachers. This year, we're really focusing on that coaching, how to take that intervention to the next level, and possibly how to get out of that intervention and not need the tier 3 instruction anymore. And, we heard from Jody last year and the year before about de-escalation strategies. So we're learning about that. And then if you combine that with all of the strategies, ask your kids about the mindfulness work that they're doing in the schools. So you'll hear that they're learning the strategies to de-escalate right there on our own. And then between Anne Marie and the people on our team, we're really trying to support students on the alternate learning outcomes and making sure the teachers have the curriculum resources they need so they don't have to make it up, giving them more time to be with the students. So thanks for having me chat a little bit about the great work that we're doing. We're really excited about it.
Thanks, Jen. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Amy, who's going to talk a little about the programs and services that she supervises. So Amy, if you want to pick it up.
Sure, and I do not think my video is working for some reason, so I will, but the slides tell the story. This is the division, our division of pre-K special programs and related services. So the big bubbles essentially represent the units that work with us, the Autism Spectrum Disorder Services, which serves students with autism in every part, every school in MCPS from birth to 21. As well as the discrete, the specialized autism programs, speech language services. We have our acting supervisor, Shelley McAuliffe, Pam DeFosi, longtime supervisor of more than 20 years, retired, and Shelley McAuliffe, who's a very experienced speech pathologist and is our new administrator there, acting supervisor this year, with her instructional specialist, Sandy. Infants and toddlers program continues to be a very robust 3,000 children and families strong with 5 coordinators there. Around county. Child Find Early Childhood Disabilities under Faith Fischel, and our new PEP coordinator, Mary Rose Katina, and Marie Kroll, our instructional specialist, working with all those students in PEP ages 3 to 5, alongside the Child Find team, the Child Find and Desk team, which are really the evaluation teams for 3 to 5-year-olds. Deaf, hard of hearing, and vision services. I know Susan is here. A lot of you know Susan and her expertise, along with Liz Nairbass, who is the instructional specialist working with students with vision impairments, and Michelle Fyack, instructional specialist working with, with mass expertise on students who are deaf and hard of hearing, and then the audiologist. And Louise Kawadson just retired after I don't know how many years, but I think upwards of, and longer than I'll be around, that's for sure. So she took a much deserved retirement, and we have a new audiologist as well. Physical disabilities, Bill McGrath continues to lead the unit with the high incidence accessible technology and interact teams, along with occupational therapists and physical therapists, and the instructional specialists supporting that unit, Edna Ellis, Marilyn Jacobs, Lynn Tazi, and Linda Wilson. And here I will highlight especially Jen Benson, who is not new to our group and not new to our floor and our office, but she's new to me and to us as the instructional specialist in the Division of Pre-K Special Programs and Related Services. A lot of you know Mary Rose Katina, who was our previous instructional specialist, and Mary Rose is now the PEP coordinator. So Jen is our new instructional specialist. And Chris Secan, a lot of you know her, and she faces on here too. She's the supervisor of the autism services. And I'll point out, and I'm sure I mentioned it last year because it was a highlighted year, the picture on the right is the first annual award ceremony, autism unit award ceremonies. And there's a 40 in the back of the balloons are representing the 40 years of the autism program. So all those people right there are the ones who support your students with your children with autism, no matter where they go to school. But that picture represents an immense amount of experience working with students with autism. So these are some of their roles: consultation. They work, they train schools and staff members, and a lot of new staff members in schools that they're working with every day. And here, I spoke too soon because now we have the pictures, but Faith Fischel and then Kathy Toscano and Tori Pegram are 2 of our infants and toddlers coordinators. And there are 3 others as well. And so this is Nancy Hiltbrand and Lauren Mangrum and Marie Marino are our other infants and toddlers coordinators all throughout the county, serving all of those children and families. And then the preschool program, and there's really in PEP, there's, we are in a huge, bustling early childhood in Montgomery County, and in Maryland is bustling. And we are doing a lot of work phasing in general education pre-K to more of a full day in general education, and then how we align and really just partner, tag team. My general education counterpart in MCPS, she and I are kind of at the hip here, doing our work together as we should. Deaf and hard of hearing, I mentioned Susan is here. Susan, you want to come up and say hello? I know a lot of folks know you already.
Yeah, hi, good evening. It's nice to be here with everybody for our kickoff in September. We're looking forward to continuing serving our students around the county who are deaf or hard of hearing or who are blind and visually impaired. And I wish everybody a really great school year.
Thank you. And I don't believe Shelley is here. I could be wrong and she'll come up, but Shelley is doing a great job as acting supervisor. She's been working under and with and next to and very close to Pam DeFosi for years, so has learned so much about just supervising the provision of speech language services, as well as sort of the management and supervision of many speech pathologists, and working really hard to fill our vacancies, which I'll highlight as another, where we are, it's another area where we are partnering with some universities to grow our own and to help students who want to be, undergrad students who want to be speech pathologists. help support that and then have them be MCPS speech pathologists, hopefully forever. You can read that. There are support SLPs who are in the classroom supporting your own children's speech pathologists throughout the year. Bill, I don't think Bill or Linda are with us. Could be wrong and they'll jump off if so, but Bill McGrath is supervisor and Linda Wilson is the instructional specialist who works with the Hyatt team, the high incidence accessible technology team. Linda, are you here? No. The Hyatt team. So a lot of students with high incidence disabilities, working in schools with teams, with teachers, with administrators, working on implementing universal design for learning principles in schools, in all 207 of our schools. I highlighted universal design for learning. MCPS has really some great expertise in UDL, leading the state, and is often recognized for that. The Interact team, Marilyn Jacobs, this is also works in the physical disabilities unit, the interdisciplinary augmentative communication and technology team called Interact, working for students with more low incidence disabilities whose significant communication disabilities, and they're using augmentative and alternative communication AAC systems really to to enhance and promote their own communication. And really the Interact team is really working with the staff and largely in identifying communication systems for students that work in the classroom and at home.
The next slide is our transition services. We continue to have the support of Simone Guinness as our supervisor and Margie Parrott, our longtime instructional specialist in that area. I don't know if Simone or Margie are on that want to say hello this evening. I just saw some of Simone's great work go out today through a memo that informs schools about their mini grants that they can apply for, or opportunities to provide students with transition activities. Want to go to the next slide. We're going to say a few words about compensatory services, and I saw some questions in the chat that I can address, when we go into the breakout. If folks want to jump into the breakout session with me, I can answer some specific questions that you may have about compensatory recovery services. But we are continuing to work through the delivery of those services in a variety of different ways. Jonathan Langsam, and his information is at the bottom of the screen there, continues to help support that work. We're doing that through the support of students before and after school. So if we have providers at a school, so for example, if there's a special education teacher trained in delivering intervention that is willing and able to do that work for the student at the local school, then we will support that. And in any variety of areas that are needed for the compensatory services. But we also are availing ourselves of these 4 regional sites where students can receive those services on Saturdays and Sundays. And so there are the 4 regional sites. We've opened up one in the Olney area. We saw that there was a bit of a geographical gap in that area from our previous regional services. And so the other sites are not new. And they have delivered those services in the past at those sites. Little Bennett may be one new this year, but we had one in the Up County area in the past. Those providers are meeting with students at other locations as well, libraries, recreational areas, in order to deliver those students compensatory services. And they can meet by appointment virtually. So by appointment, they can also have those services if it's appropriate delivered virtually. So Jonathan Langsam and one of our part-time employees, Jill Pelez, are working to help align or match providers with students, and their number there is below. We are going to be sending out a communication to parents to help re-engage families who for whom we know that they were found eligible for these services, but we have yet to connect with a provider or to find an appropriate pathway for these to be delivered. So there'll be more to come. If you're a family out there that knows that your student was found eligible, but those services have yet to be delivered, look for more information to come your way. Next. So this is a very exciting opportunity for us to introduce a new position, special education parent engagement position that quite frankly, we should have had a long time ago. And it's very exciting for us to have an experienced person come on board. Mary Beth Matsuranis is a experienced principal in Montgomery County who is retired, and she's somebody who has background and experience in the field of special education. So she's knowledgeable about special education, but she's also really knowledgeable about MCPS. And in her retirement, we are going to be asking her to help really use some time this year to get this position up and running and really establish it. She's agreed to work with us this year, and then we will be taking on somebody full-time in the following year, hopefully walking into a position that Mary Beth has really done a lot of work with. Mary Beth, are you here? You introduce yourself.
She is not here, Phil.
She's not here. Okay. So we will have her introduce herself at a future meeting and share more about the work that she's doing. The purpose of this position is really to be a resource and a liaison for youth. So these are some of the different roles that Mary Beth will be playing this year, and that this position will take on in the future. So helping to coordinate those parent engagement programs, developing parent and family workshops on the IEP process and areas of interest. She may be participating in trainings for parents, responding to parents who may have concerns. So in the past, we have really used staff members who have had other primary roles to be these go-to folks. And we've used folks that, like I said, wasn't their primary job, but Mary Beth is going to be taking this on as her primary job, and then we will have this position established in the future. She's going to be a person who can connect you with resources. She's a person who could really connect you with the right person in the county that you may need to be connected with. So right now, what Mary Beth is doing is going through all the current parent resources we have. She's availing herself of what's out there. She's looking at models that are in place in other systems. We will get to a place where we're going to be where we have a physical office or space where you could come in and meet with this person, and we will have that place hopefully outfitted with parent resources that you could borrow if you need to, or you can take with you. And so this is something that we are building, and it's something that we've needed for a while in Montgomery County. And so we're happy to be kicking this off with somebody who's got such great experience and is willing to come back from retirement and take this on. So very exciting. We have the parent resources, which are on our web. And so I know that this is something that we've shared with you in the past. I also think it's a very underutilized resource, all of the different things that we have on the web. It's very easy to access if you just go again into the MCPS webpage and you were to type in special education. On the left-hand side of that webpage, you'll see all the different categories of resources that we have. You'll see on there the special ed website. And Derek, I don't know, are you able to click on that? So this gives you, you can see it. I know the print is small, but on the left-hand column there, it gives you all the different resources. Derek, if you click on the contact us for me, I just want to give an example of what that looks like. So I know it's at the bottom there. And if you scroll up, Derek, so you can see it's labeled contact us, but it's a little bit it's not a great descriptor, because it really is, a place where you can go if you have questions around any of these different areas. So if you need to contact somebody in the autism unit or deaf and hard of hearing unit, this page really gives you all that information. Maybe go back, Derek. The other place that I would just highlight would be the parent resources. So that says resources for families. This is where we house our quick guides. So let's say you're going into an evaluation meeting, or you're going into a reevaluation meeting, or you're going into an IEP development meeting. We have quick guides for all of those different meetings, one pagers that will really help you be able to navigate that meeting. It will show you what the agendas look like. There's a description of the different services on this page. So a lot of great resources here. And also there's oh, you go ahead and show that, Derek. You want to click on that. So I mentioned earlier that that if you need to contact our special education supervisors, their information is here as well, along with their phone number, office phone numbers, and email addresses. It lists all of the schools. So if you're not sure who your supervisor is, you can see the schools that they support, along with their contact information. So all of that is available for you there. And of course, the SECAC page is here as well. Thank you, Derek. You've even put the C in the web page. I appreciate that. And so, Derek, if you could show them where these presentations and videos are all kept. We keep our agendas on here. If you go into the agendas, you can see the video. Right now, this presentation is being recorded, and you can get the slides. So you have both the video and you have the slides. So if there's something going on and you can't make our meeting and you want to see it later, you can certainly take that time to watch that by clicking on these resources online. It does take us a few days to get the recording up and running and get that on there, but we will have those presentation slides available to you, so you don't need to stress out and take a lot of notes. It'll all be there. Thank you, Derek. So there's a quick guide for or parent tips resource that's on that parent resource slide. It's some just quick tips for you to maximize your process, the IP process as a parent. Some tips for you that will help support you. I mentioned the quick guides for IEP meetings. So if you look at the left, the document that's in blue there, it just gives you a step-by-step of what's going to take place in those meetings. And then another resource that comes from the state of Maryland is from the MSD resource, which is linked in there as well. So we have links to other outside resources. At this point, I have the pleasure of turning it over to one of our community partners. And what we'll do is we'll give Brooke an opportunity to share that information. And after she's done, which will probably give us about 20 minutes remaining, we will then jump into our breakout sessions for the remainder of the time. And we will do a quick return back to our room here to say good evening and good night at 9 o'clock. So that will take us through the rest of our presentation. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Brooke to share some wonderful information about what's going on with the Down Syndrome Network.
Thanks, Phil. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brooke Levy, and I'm the Executive Director of the Down Syndrome Network of Montgomery County. And I also have 3 children, one of whom has already gone through MCPS and 2 who are currently in MCPS. For those of you who don't know the Down Syndrome Network of Montgomery County, we serve people in Montgomery County, and we're growing actually into DC because there isn't a Down Syndrome Association that covers DC. But we work with families who have loved ones with Down syndrome from birth to adulthood. And I'm not going to go ahead and read our mission and vision. You can see that right there. But we offer all kinds of programs, services, and resources for families within MCPS, in the MCPS region for people with Down syndrome. If you want to go to the next slide. And just quickly, these are some of the areas that we work in. These are our priorities for the families that we work with. We have a large group of Latino, about 70 families who live in the area. We, of course, do social events because it's important for families to get together who have children and adults with Down syndrome. We have lifespan programming. And one of the things that I do just want to point out, and I'll put some links in here afterwards, is that we offer many parent and guardian workshops on specific topics, of course, related to Down syndrome. But I can say that for any family who has a student or a child that receives special education services, our workshops equally serve your families as well. So we can certainly, and all of you are always invited to those types of programming. And I usually give links to Connie and Amy so that they can share the information. Next slide, please. And I'm going fast because I know I just have a few minutes, but because this is why I was invited. So I know Phil and Jen, and sometimes Amy gets to come too, but they always come to our annual Step Up for Down Syndrome walk, which is a very fun and large celebration of people with Down syndrome in Montgomery County. And this year it's October 15th. It's at the at Hadley's Park, which is also called Falls River Park in Potomac. It's right off of Falls River Road, or Falls Road, sorry. And it's a ton of fun, and sure, everyone is invited. If you'd like to go to the next slide, please. So it is a fundraising event. I'm going to put it out there. However, it is also an event where we celebrate the lives and just all of the things that people with Down syndrome have done and accomplished in the area. It's, when we call it a walk, it's not like a 5K or anything. It's a short 1 mile, probably less than 1 mile stroll around Falls Road Park. And it's a lot of fun. We have lots of activities. There's food, there's entertainment. It's a big event. And we generally have about 700 people come, and it's a ton of fun. And MCPS has always joined our activities to support our families, and we appreciate that, of course. Next slide. And so again, and I know it says register here. I can, if you're interested in coming, I'll put the link in. You're all welcome to join us. And I know that sometime during the year, they'll have me back to talk more specifically about the programs that we offer. And I will put my email in here if you're interested, because I know that we always find new families who have children with Down syndrome who have not been connected yet with our organization. And we really do provide a lot of educational programming and support for families in our area. So thanks a lot for listening. And it's also October, just so you know, is it's Down Syndrome Awareness Month. So that's why we always host it in October. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brooke. And we did ask Brooke to come on specifically because she has that event coming up. So I'm glad she was able to say a few words. We for those of you who don't know our format, as we move throughout the year, we'll be hearing more from other community organizations, and we'll have Brooke come back on with some of her friends from the Down Syndrome Network to tell us a little bit more about what they're doing and what their programs look like down the road. So thank you so much, Brooke. And the Down Syndrome walk is it's just a great celebration, as it says on the earlier slide, and it's, you know, it's one of my favorite events, and so I really enjoy it. And so I would encourage folks to come out and take part in it. And it's a great time of year to be out, usually in the fall, and so it's always a lovely event. So thank you all for inviting me. I'm still wearing a size large, Brooke, so
that was my next question for you all. What size shirts do y'all want?
my shirt size is not changed, so I'll take a large. And I look forward to that. So appreciate you saying a few words about that. And the Techniques for Success workshop, they do such a great job of inviting and welcoming MCPS staff. I'm always amazed at how many of our staff members take advantage of that workshop, and they offer it at a wonderful rate for those folks. So you can go back to the next slide there, Derek. So at this point, we have about 20 minutes or so remaining, and what we'll do is spend some time in our breakout rooms. And so the way we structured the breakout rooms this evening is that they're not with each individual supervisor. We created one room for the supervisors, and Jen is going to help facilitate that room to try to see if we can get some input and feedback from folks. And if you have some specific questions you want to talk through with the supervisors, you can certainly use that time to have some dialogue. I will be in a separate room if folks want to chat with me about anything in particular. And also the co-chairs will be in those rooms. I do want to again emphasize the fact that, you know, this is a public forum. You're with other parents, you're with other folks. So please try to maintain a cordial environment. Please try to maintain confidentiality. If we need to meet with you individually and talk specifically about some challenge that you're facing that is specific to your child, we can certainly do that. But we want to use this opportunity to answer questions that others may benefit from. So at that said, let's see what we need to do here to get into our breakout rooms. Okay, you see that they are listed here. So Derek, you want to give us a little bit of
Sure thing. So you should see a list of you should see 3 rooms that you can go ahead and choose to select. If you have any trouble in locating or joining a room, just let us know in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and assign you to the room. Thank you. And again, the 3 rooms are meet with the supervisors. That's one room. Another room is meet with the directors, and the third is meet with co-chairs.
Where should I choose? Where do I select? I'm sorry. In the chat. How do we select where we want to go?
You should see on the menu bar where it says breakout rooms. I'm not sure if you see breakout rooms right
Oh,
there.
I do now. Okay, all right.
And then once you select breakout rooms, you should see 3 rooms that you can choose from.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, señora Lucía López. Que pase linda noche.